Hi, Dave Isaacs here for JamPlay.com, and this is a lesson on developing effective practice habits. First thing you need to know is that when it comes to practicing, when it comes to learning an instrument, you're probably your own worst enemy. And there's a reason for that. There's a cliche about how children learn better than adults, and it is true that kids have a way of just soaking things up that we tend to lose as we get older. But there's a really big factor to take into account here. And that's that kids are not really thinking about where they are relative to where they want to be. When you pick up an instrument later in life, you've got already a more complicated life than you did when you were 12. You've got a lot more things distracting you. You've got a lot more things taking your time away from being able to pick up the guitar and just play it. You couldn't come home from school and just sit for 3 or 4 hours and noodle around with the guitar. You've got to be more disciplined about it. You've got to be more focused about it. But hopefully, as an adult, we have skills, focusing skills, cognitive abilities that we didn't have as kids. And the other thing we have to keep in mind, and this relates to being your own worst enemy, is that we know where we want to be, we know where we are, and we know exactly how far we are from where we want to be. You didn't have that problem when you were 12. You just played and enjoyed what you were doing. So one of the things that I see in my private teaching over and over and over again is that the people who don't succeed are the ones who just don't give themselves enough time. They're impatient. They want to get there faster than they are able to get there given the constraints that their life places upon them. So you have to think about this. Your practicing has to be disciplined. It has to be focused. It has to be regular. And you have to be patient. So one of the best things that you can do is find a time of day where you are able to be focused but undistracted, and you are able to sit down and practice for X amount of time, whatever your life allows. It could be 5 minutes. Practicing 5 minutes a day, every day, will do you a lot more good than picking up the guitar once a week and playing for 2 hours in terms of actually being able to progress. Because that 5 minutes, within that 5 minutes, you're a lot more likely to be able to maintain the kind of real concentration that you need to actually improve. This goes back to concepts that I've referred to in earlier lessons when we talk about aim-directed movement, right? Being able to have the thought, know where you're trying to get to, and know that you're going to land in the place that you aimed at, as opposed to playing darts with the lights out. Another thing to keep in mind is that you need to be very, very conscious of whether you're focused or not. And as soon as your mind starts to wander, then you probably need to put the guitar down, or maybe just play a song. There's a difference between playing for your own enjoyment and practicing to really improve. And I see a lot of people, again, in my private studio who come in and say, I've been playing guitar for 15 years, I haven't gotten better in 13, what am I doing wrong? And what they're probably doing wrong is they might be spending a lot of time playing and very little time practicing. So having that deep awareness of how much you're able to focus and how well you're able to concentrate is essential. As soon as your mind starts to wander, you are no longer accomplishing things with precision. And when you're practicing without precision, then essentially, as logic would suggest, you're practicing being imprecise. You're practicing being sloppy. That's not going to help you be a better guitar player. I've made reference earlier to when I was in college, I used to practice my pure technical exercises early in the morning when I was drinking my coffee. Not because I wasn't awake and because I didn't want to be aware of what I was doing, but because since my day hadn't really started yet, all the chatter that builds up over the course of a day really hadn't started, hadn't begun. And so I was able to just be more focused. And that just turned out to be the best time for me to practice was early in the morning. Now, some people might find that late at night, they might be tired, but it's the quietest time of the day for them. For some people, mornings are extremely hectic. Are you in a hurry? You got to get up and get out and go to work, whatever it is. You have to know your life. You have to know your own ability to focus and recognize how to put those two things together. Now, let me get into a specific method that's very, very useful. And we've established that you have your time to practice and we have your focus and you're working on getting something. Let's say you're trying to nail a particular part and you keep going for it and missing, and you keep going for it and missing, and you keep going for it and missing. Odds are you're not accomplishing anything. Let me take a simple lick like this. Now, it's just a little melodic figure on a D chord. Let's say I keep missing, and that's not working. The thing I need to do is to identify where the problem is. Well, that's okay, so that's not the problem. But this, maybe you don't have enough strength or control in the pinky to execute that smoothly. So the thing that you practice is this. Or maybe you even break it down further and just practice this. And in the course of doing that, you might notice that executing that pull-off requires plucking down with the knuckle instead of just lifting your finger off, which doesn't sound as good, number one, and makes it more difficult to execute the rest of the pattern. So let's say we've broken it down, we've identified this pull-off as the main issue. So now we need to be able to incorporate that pull-off into this. So maybe you just practice that. And then we add that to. And now we've got a completed lick that can be incorporated into the rest of the song. And you can see how that little pattern has plenty of little pieces that you might have to pull apart and practice, but that's what you do. You isolate that one little spot, you nail that, and then you work on integrating that back into the overall whole. And that's going to apply to anything that you're doing. And if you find that you're going for something and missing continually, it probably just means that you haven't taken a good look at what exactly you're doing, because there will almost always be one key issue, one thing that isn't being executed properly. And if you can identify that one thing and solve that one problem, then you will find that that thing you've been struggling with and struggling with and struggling with is all of a sudden right there for you. So try putting that into practice and see what it does for you. Good luck and have fun.